Okay, well, welcome everyone to Wellness Wednesday. I am your host, Andrea Paget. I am a holistic health practitioner with 20 years experience in the healthcare industry. Over 10 years of that was actually in conventional medicine, and the last 8 years has been largely holistic oncology and integrative medicine. And about over a year ago, I discovered Healy and frequency medicine, and so now it's integrating that into the practice, which has been amazing. Quantum leap for sure in my own health and my business. So I'm just going to get my presentation started. So as always, I share the mission and vision of Healy, which is very much aligned with my own vision, which is all about empowerment and really about empowering people to live a healthy, fulfilled, a conscious life, to have an impact in community, with your family, in your business, whatever capacity that you are working in or living, to really support that and learning how to use the frequencies, integrating it into the many facets of our life. So today, we are going to talk about parasites and pathogens, which are super important. As I say, it's not a super sexy topic. I refrained from sharing any visuals because I didn't want to scare people. But this is a really interesting topic for me. I have all of my clients go through a parasite cleanse. I think it's really important and certainly a missing piece in many of the detox protocols, or even most, I would say, conventionally trained practitioners. They don't really learn about this. And so they don't really have a lot of ways of testing or even asking. They really very rarely ask their patients or their clients about this sort of thing. And so my last call was about quantum detox. If you didn't catch that, you can catch the replay on YouTube. I also share all these links in our Telegram group, which is Healy Empowerment and Wellness. And so today we're going to talk about parasites and pathogens. We're going to cover cleansing. We're going to talk about frequencies, and we're going to talk about naturopathic and lifestyle support. And so this is really a follow-up to the quantum detox that the presentation that I did 2 weeks ago. And okay, so Hulda Clark, who I trained with, who I've learned a lot of my knowledge about detoxification. She's a naturopath, a cell biologist. She's brilliant, and she has been using frequencies for decades. She created her own zapper machine, that she calls it, which is really geared towards killing parasites and pathogens. And she does that along with a detox protocol as well. And she says that no matter how long and confusing the list of symptoms a person has, whether that's chronic fatigue, infertility, or mental problems, she says that there's two things that are wrong. And that is that people have pollutants and they have parasites. So pollutants, she's German, so she has a very strong accent. But she refers to pollutants as toxins, essentially, in our body, and then parasites, which are pathogens in the body that are compromising our immune system, compromising our health. And so we'll talk about her protocol as well later. But what is a parasite? So a parasite, the word comes from Greek origin, and para means beside, and cytos meaning food. So it's a pathogen. It's any organism that derives its food, its nutrition, or its house, its shelter, by living in or on another organism. And so, although today I'm going to use the word parasite over and over, this really is a broader term of a pathogen. So that could be parasites, it can be bacteria, it can be a fungus or fungi, viruses, it can be molds, mites. And sometimes, quite often, if somebody is compromised, they have multiple things going on in their system. They might have multiple pathogens there. But essentially, it's any and all unwanted guests in our that are in or on our body, that are not contributing to our health. They are taking away. They're using our energy reserves for their survival, that depletes our own system. So I consider this to be the real pandemic. I don't want to get too controversial, but it is estimated that 80% of most populations in the Western world have some form of a parasite within them that's contributing to health challenges. And I would wager that this is much higher even in developing countries, where water and soil issues are a bigger problem there. Of course, in many of the countries, they have issues with malaria, yellow fever, and that comes from compromised water systems and soil problems. And essentially that parasites in general can cause a whole host of health problems. And we'll cover that in a little bit, but oftentimes there are these subtle ways that the pathogens are affecting us that we don't can make that connection that it could be that. And really, in my opinion, it's one of the major underlying causes of many chronic degenerative diseases, which can include autoimmune conditions, neurological problems, and cancer, which is my area of expertise. And I see a lot of issues and connections between cancer and parasites. So there are many insidious effects of parasites in our system. They can severely depress our immune system. They alter our brain and behavior, affecting our mood and our nervous system function. They can disturb our metabolism. They can cause hormonal disruption. And really, they feed off our energy supplies. And this is why fatigue is quite a common symptom of parasites. They can demineralize and cause acidity in our tissues, which can lead to fatigue. It can lead to pain, all sorts of digestive problems. And basically, they excrete metabolic waste products, which sounds really lovely. And those can enter our bloodstream and cause further toxicity in other parts of our body and in different tissues. So ultimately, the parasites contribute to an overall poor environment in our digestive system in particular, which is a really important location for immunity, for hormone production, neurotransmitter production. And these are a really big part of our detox pathways, so affecting elimination as well. So what are the common symptoms of parasites? Well, there are many, as you can see from these two infographics, and I really encourage you after this call and once I post the replay, go through and just assess, am I experiencing any of these? Or if you have somebody in your life that has these symptoms and they can't really figure out what's going on, maybe have a look at this and consider that a parasite cleanse might be helpful. So what are the biggest signs are chronic digestive issues. So whether this is constipation, whether this is diarrhea, gas and bloating, especially after eating, abdominal pains, aches and pains, feeling tired all of the time. And so this, like a lot of my presentations that I talk about, quite often it's not just one thing. It's like all of our systems are interconnected. So parasites might be contributing to lower immunity and compromised digestion, and they all kind of like play together. But quite often what happens is when you do a parasite cleanse, it resolves a lot of these other issues. So some of the other common symptoms that we see is anxiety and depression, frequent headaches, chronic pain, especially in the joints and muscles. It affects us cognitively, so poor memory, brain fog is a huge one. Skin problems is really common. So whether that's psoriasis or acne is quite common. Teeth grinding. We can have nutritional deficiencies because the parasites love to eat the B vitamins, which is really where we get a lot of our energy from. They'll eat pretty much anything that you bring into your system, and so it can lead to some nutritional deficiencies. It can cause visual problems. It can, a common one that I see in my clients, especially in kids, is itchiness, like itchy ears, itchy nose, itchy anus. That's quite common. So there's a lot of different things of common symptoms of parasites. And really what happens is that it overwhelms our system. So the pathogens cause inflammation in our digestive system, which leads, as I was saying, to a potential loss of nutrients. Essentially, they steal our vitamins, our minerals, our amino acids from our food, and then in return, they release their toxic waste into our body. So it's a symbiotic relationship for them in such that they're getting what they need, but it's actually quite detrimental to our own system. And really, parasites can affect any and every system in our body. They tend to localize in the digestive system first, compromising our immune system and creating hormonal imbalances. But they can get into the cardiovascular system, they can get into the neurological system, and they affect our skin quite often as well. And ultimately, what happens is our detoxification systems, our pathways become overburdened. And this leads to, because we're not able to eliminate them as efficiently, it causes an accumulation of toxins. And really, this is what sets us up for more serious illnesses, chronic illnesses and diseases if we don't address it. So, oh my God, what do we do? This sounds so scary. And I have all those symptoms. So now we're going to talk about how we can support ourselves, right? And ultimately, I see it as 4 different things. So we strengthen our digestive system, we strengthen our system as a whole, we activate our self-healing potential within ourselves, and this ultimately leads to the parasites not being able to thrive or survive in our system. Essentially, parasites really like toxic environments. They prefer an acidic environment, a lower pH, and it's really hard for them to survive if they're in a clean environment. So as we work to clean up this, we move our body to a more alkaline state, we're eliminating the toxins, then the parasites, it creates a hostile environment for them, and really they can't thrive in that environment. So that's sort of the end goal of what we're achieving through doing these detoxification processes. And so, what does a parasite cleanse entail? So, really, due to the vast number of symptoms and illnesses implicating parasites, which really could be the root cause of many of these chronic conditions, I highly recommend, and I recommend to all my clients, I recommend a regular detox program. So, what does that look like? Um, First and foremost, you want to clear the pathways. So, prior to doing a parasite cleanse, I highly recommend doing a digestive cleanse, a colon cleanse, to make sure that the elimination pathways are open, that things are flowing, so to speak. Because once you do the parasite cleanse, as you kill the parasites and kill the eggs, there's a die off, and you want to be making sure that that is being efficiently moved out of the system. And if the colon is not functioning properly, then you just end up dumping a bunch of toxins into your system, further burdening it and not being able to eliminate it. So you want to open the channels first. So doing a colon cleanse. I typically have my clients, I have them stagger it. So they start the colon cleanse, they open the pathways, things are moving, and then we implement the parasite cleanse, the anti-parasitic formula next. And then now what's super exciting is we include the frequencies, and this is really moving it into this sort of quantum detox of balancing the body, cleansing the body at not just a physical level, but also an energetic level. And so the Quantum Detox, which is a new program that I'm launching, is really incorporating traditional naturopathic cleansing methods and then using the frequencies to support. So whether that is helping to mitigate some of the cleanse symptoms, further detoxifying the body, ensuring there's circulation and things are moving, and then rebalancing and regeneration. So there's a sort of step-by-step protocol of which frequencies to run depending on which system that we're working on. And so today, for today's purpose of talking about parasites, we'll talk about the frequencies that are used for that. Of course, using nutrition, supplements, and herbs. And essentially with parasites, starving them out is really, that's how we create the hostile environment for them. So sugar is a really big one that they love. So really limiting that and then creating a more alkaline environment, and then combined with the herbs to really flush everything out of the system. And I see this as an overall balancing of the body and the bioenergetic field. So if you wanted more info on that, you can visit resonanceconnection.com. But right now we'll start and we'll talk about the herbs that we can use. So essentially, if you do any herbal parasite cleanse, most of them have the 3 main ones, and then you'll find some of the products on the market, they'll have some other ones that are complementary. But essentially using these 3 herbs and the combination of them, this is based on Hulda Clark's work, that when you use these 3 particular herbs, they have a strong synergy together and they can eliminate over 100 types of parasites. And this is really quite remarkable because when you're taking it, it doesn't really provoke a lot of side effects, and it doesn't interfere with any pharmaceuticals or products that you might be taking. And so with any parasite cleanse, a minimum of 14 days consecutive use of the herbs is recommended. And this is to capture, not only just kill the active parasites, but to kill any of the eggs that might be remaining in the system. And if you choose to do the 14 days, some of the cleanses are 15. I think Hulda Clark's is 18 days. And so you do the 18 days with hers, and then you do a maintenance, you move to a maintenance protocol for the following 4 weeks. And really any kind of research that you do with parasites, they say you want to do 4 to 6 weeks, because initially when you're taking the herbs, you'll kill off the parasites, the active parasites themselves, but it doesn't always clear out the eggs. And so by continuing you capture them all. Once the eggs hatch, then the herbs will continue to kill those off. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later. But ideally, if you're experiencing, if you go back and you read through and you have a lot of those symptoms, or you have a chronic illness or a diagnosis, I highly recommend a parasite cleanse for the full 6-week protocol. That's what I have all my clients do if they have cancer. It's highly recommended. So the 3 different herbs are black walnut and wormwood, and then clove. And the black walnut and the wormwood together, these kill the adult parasites, the ones that are active right now, or the ones that are in a later developmental stage. And these 2 combined will kill 100 different types of parasites. Now, I live in the tropics, and parasites are a huge problem here. So many people go to the pharmacy and they buy the 3-day cleanse. And what I discovered is those are great for certain types of parasites, but actually most of them kill like 2 or 3 different parasites, when really our system is quite often burdened with more than just one type. And so I like to use these 3 herbs because they capture the 100 different parasites. And then the cloves kill the eggs. And so using these together really allows you to rid yourself of any of these unwanted pathogens. The nice thing about these 3 herbs as well is that they're not just antiparasitic, they're antibacterial, antifungal, and antiparasitic. And so they're really working to eliminate all of the pathogens from the system. And essentially, when you use these together, like if you were only to kill the adult active parasites, then and the eggs remain, essentially they'll just hatch, and then your problems will just persist. And by the same token, if you just killed the eggs, then all the ones that are the parasites that are still there will just continue to wreak havoc on your system. And so by using the 3 of them together, really gives you the best option to eliminate the parasites and the pathogens from your system. I'm gonna let somebody else in. So what are the frequencies that we can use? So both Hulda Clark and Dr. Raymond Rife, if you're familiar with his work, they understood the connection between pathogens and leading a manifestation of an illness. And so they were both revolutionary in using frequencies. Now they use frequencies different than Healy, because Hulda Clark used a method and it goes on and it goes off, and Dr. Rife used specific frequencies for specific pathogens. And Hulda Clark did a lot of research around that as well. And so Healy actually has the Rife frequencies and the Hulda Clark frequencies in the Power of 3. And so there's the Zapper protocol, which is Hulda Clark, and then, or the Clark frequencies, and then there's the classical physical and classical energetic, which are the Rife frequencies. So anybody that's undertaking a parasite cleanse, I mean, how I recommend it to my clients is, when you're in the active phase of doing the parasite cleanse, say you were going to do it for 14 days, I recommend running the Zapper protocol daily, every single day for the length of that program. And if Dr. Rife frequency is the classical physical and classical energetic, if that resonates more, then using those. But really working with them on a daily basis through the duration of the cleanse is my recommendation. And then following that, using the 3rd row down, conflict balance, defense support, and friendly flora. So this is really strengthening the digestive system and the immune system. So these are nice follow-up. Or there is the Power of 3. You could do the whole program for the 9 weeks. I did do a presentation on that a couple of months ago. So if you wanted more info specifically about the Power of 3. But these ones are amazing frequencies for not just parasites, but any kind of cleanse that somebody might be undertaking. Of course, we have our gold cycle, which are detox frequencies. And this is really about restoring cellular health. So this is creating the optimal bioterrain within the body, restoring that cell communication and cell signaling. So these ones are really supportive for any kind of detox. It's balancing the pH, it's moving the system to more of an alkaline state. So pure, of course, is the foundational frequency, and this is really supporting kidneys and lungs, which are great when you're detoxing. The care program is really geared towards the bioenergetic balancing of the immune system. Balance, of course, is balancing anything that's flowing through the body, supporting the kidneys, supporting circulation, lymphatic system, hormones, anything that's flowing through. Energy It's really nice because it increases ATP production. So this is great if someone is feeling tired or sluggish from the cleanse. So sometimes we have a healing crisis that can happen as well that lowers our energy. And then we have relax, which are anti-stress and really geared towards nervous system support, and then release, which is an amazing complementary detox frequency because it's really letting go of everything, moving everything out, moving, releasing pain, releasing emotions, releasing lactic acid, releasing anything that we are holding on to, whether that's physically, mentally, or emotionally. Of course, we have our bioenergetic harmony 1 and 2. These are like our digital first aid frequencies. So there are many in this that you could use. And really you want to tailor it to your symptomatology. So however things are manifesting in you, if you feel like the parasites are compromising your immune system, then using the immune system frequency programs. In bioenergetic harmony 2, these are the ones where they're really geared towards toxins, bacteria, supporting the gastrointestinal system, our liver, which can be activated during a detox because it's having to expel things and work harder. And so, using frequencies that support the liver in this process of elimination can be really, really helpful. And if you're experiencing any lung symptoms, these are great ones to use as well. And same for meridians, depending on the manifestation that one might be having, using the frequencies that support the symptoms or supporting that system that they're working with. Personally, I like to use these two programs in conjunction. So if I run a bioenergetic harmony as the digital first aid, I quite often follow it up with a meridian program to sort of optimize that flow through that system. That's kind of my process of working with that. There's a lot in digital nutrition, but primarily I picked the ones that would be geared towards supporting a parasite cleanse. So again, in digital nutrition mixture number 2, we have the alkaline powder, which is moving the body more into a more alkaline state. We have blood, cleansing of the blood, which is really important during a detox. Any of the vitamin ones, there's vitamins, there's minerals, the trace elements, the vegan, the hypovitaminosis. Because again, the parasites, when they get into your digestive system, they'll be eating your B vitamins, they're eating your fatty acids, they're consuming your amino acids. And so really using the detox program or the digital nutrition mixture programs and can really help replenish the system and provide your body with the energy it needs to eliminate them, but also restore that balance within your system. And then the digital nutrition mixtures 3 are really geared towards the immune system. So there's the immune system on the bottom, there's toxins, lymphatic system, antioxidants. And if anybody's having allergy manifestations, which quite often can be from parasites, then running the allergy frequency programs are really amazing for that too. And then, of course, we have, I just put these all in one, but basically these are frequencies to support our nervous system, stress. So the parasites, and I say that I keep coming back to the B vitamins and the way that we support ourselves. I actually went through an experience a couple of years ago when I first moved to the tropics, and I got really sick because I didn't know that I was supposed to be doing parasite cleanses like twice a year in the tropics. And they had eaten all my B vitamins and they had thrown my hormones out of whack. And for me, it really manifested through my nervous system. I was having a lot of anxiety, which I had not really had before. My sleep was really impacted. I was waking up in the middle of the night, feeling like I was going to have a panic attack, which I had never experienced before. And I didn't realize that was caused from the parasites. And so sometimes we have these manifestations in our life and we don't always think about connecting it to that. And in the end, I ended up going to see a naturopath, and I did like 4 parasite cleanses in a row. And all of these symptoms resolved themselves. And I was really astounded by all these insidious ways, like I was saying at the beginning of the presentation, all the insidious ways that parasites affect all of our different systems. And so there are so many amazing programs that Healy has to support our nervous system, to help us manage our stress, to help us sleep really well in the evening and get into sort of reset our circadian rhythm. So any of the job and sleep, the protection programs are amazing. Mental balance, some of my favorite. And then if anybody's experiencing sort of a manifestation of the viruses or the parasites or the frequencies, if you've identified that that's what it is, then the bioenergetic boost is really great for supporting the immune system as well. So basically, when you go through a detox, if you've ever done a detox, we have this thing called the healing crisis. And not everybody has this, but if somebody does have an accumulation of toxins within their system, it's very likely that they will experience sort of a worsening of symptoms before it gets better. And we call this a healing crisis. And this is because we are removing the toxins, there is this die off. And in particular with parasites, when you're killing the parasites and you're killing the eggs, they release ammonia as a byproduct of being killed. And this can really lead to some sort of general fatigue, brain fog. It can affect your mood, can cause headaches, change of appetite. And so this can happen at the initial part of the cleanse as these pathogens are being killed off. And so you might feel worse at the beginning. And then if you stick with it a couple of days after, then you start to notice this lightening and sort of a lot of these symptoms releasing, and then starting to feel more energized, starting to feel more normal, more like yourself as you are able to flush toxins out of the body. Which brings me to my second point, which is hydration. I did a whole presentation on hydration. I think I talk about hydration in almost every single one of my talks because it's super, super important. But basically, the water flushes the toxins out of your system. So the more water you drink, if you're doing a cleanse, you want to be drinking more water. And you'll notice that you're more thirsty in general. But the more you're drinking water, the more you're able to eliminate these toxins from your system at a faster rate, and the better you'll feel throughout this process. And quite often, I think that we mistake our hunger for hydration, and sometimes there can be a change in appetite when you're moving through a cleanse as well. But just drink tons of water, and it will really restore your energy at a much faster pace, especially if you're doing a cleanse. And of course, nutrition. So with parasites in particular, they really love sugar, they love grains, they love anything that's like really easy to digest. So alcohol, processed foods, any kind of genetically modified food, because our body doesn't always recognize that as food. The parasites, they eat it up, and then they release their lovely byproduct of toxins into our system. And so really focusing on, when you're doing a parasite cleanse, of being mindful to just really have simple whole foods. Organic is best if possible. And just really focusing, if you're not sure, search an alkaline diet and find all of the fruits and vegetables that are more alkaline, all of the foods that are more alkaline, and stick with those is really the best bet. So how do we reduce our risk? There's a lot of ways that you can come into contact with parasites. And so in general, practicing good hand hygiene or personal hygiene. So making sure that you wash your hands, especially after petting your furry loved ones, and keeping your nails short. Oh my gosh, in preparation for this presentation, I learned that if you have long fingernails and the parasites get underneath there, they can actually live there for like weeks, which sort of freaked me out. And I had no idea. So, just practicing keeping our nails cut, hand washing, especially before meal preparation, and avoiding overuse of antibiotics, because this compromises our immune system. It throws the good versus bad bacteria balance out of our digestive system as well. Just being mindful that, of course, if you need antibiotics, you can take them. It's good to follow it up with probiotics, but just avoiding overuse. And I see this a lot with clients where they've been taking antibiotics over and over again because that's what their healthcare practitioner is recommending, because they think it's a bacteria, but in fact it could be a parasite, it could be a fungus, which the bacteria with the antibiotics will not eliminate. So if you've been taking antibiotics over and over again because of your health practitioner recommending it or prescribing it, and it hasn't resolved the issues, the underlying symptoms that you have going on, it might be prudent to consider doing a parasite cleanse. It's also best, if you are going to do a parasite cleanse, that your entire family does it at once, including your pets, that you do the parasite cleanse at the same time. Because if you eliminate your parasites, but everybody else still has theirs, then your risk is greater for sort of reintroduction of parasites into your environment. Washing all of your fruits and vegetables thoroughly. So I like to soak mine in apple cider vinegar. You can also use hydrogen peroxide. You can use oxygenated water, and this will kill a lot of the parasites initially upon contact. And then you just want to rinse it thoroughly after, before you prepare those foods. Thoroughly cooking meats and fish, and then obviously limiting sushi, which is a big sort of a risk for parasites, and limiting undercooked meat. There's many other ways, but just kind of giving you a quick overview of certain ways to reduce your risk. Also, global travel is another one that you'll see quite often in terms of risk reduction. So being mindful that if you are traveling, especially if you're going to a developing country or a third world country, that you're not drinking the water, that you're being mindful about washing your hands, and especially if you're swimming in rivers or lakes, that being mindful to not get the water in your mouth. So if you review some of the symptoms on the slides that I shared earlier about some of the many symptoms that are attributed to parasites, if you have some or many of those, and especially if you are eating clean and you're doing all the things and you still don't feel well, or you still have these symptoms, doing a parasite cleanse could be that missing piece in the health puzzle. So ultimately, if you have parasites and you do a cleanse, you'll feel much better after doing the parasite cleanse. And so some of the things that you will experience after doing this, if it is parasites, is usually people report having an increase in energy, their skin clears up, their digestion improves, the brain fog goes away, and they feel like their brain is functioning better, they're sleeping better. If you're having any food cravings, typically because you're eliminating the parasites, which is eating all of your vitamins and minerals, that's why you feel hungry all the time, or you're craving particular foods, especially sugar or grains. By eliminating the parasites, it eliminates that. Reduction of aches and pains, and then feeling less stress and anxiety. So essentially, though, a healthy immune system is the best defense against parasites and disease. And really, because 70 to 80% of our immune system is in our digestive system, focusing on the gut, really eliminating and optimizing our digestive system is the best way to ensure a healthy immune system. Okay, so now we'll move into our promos for Healy for October. Yet another month of huge promo and sales. So this month it's 45% off of anything from the Healy Holistic and above. And if you're a Healy member, then you can, if you sell 3 Healy Resonance or above, then you can earn a free Healy Resonance plus yourself. And if you enroll a new member and they sell 3, then you can earn a free Mag Healy, which is amazing. And then just to finish off, so we have our Healy Wellness and Empowerment Telegram group. So this is where you get any information about upcoming calls. All of the links to previous calls and presentations will be found there. And we have lots of Healy corporate events as well. So there's Tech Tip Tuesday, there's What's Up Wednesday, Healy for Beginners and Beyond on Thursdays. And then we also, Chad and Cassie and I have launched a new portal called Resonance Connection, which is launching this weekend. And this is really diving deep into the world of energy medicine and frequencies. I will be offering my quantum detox in there. Chad's going to be doing his shamanism, and really diving deep into advanced usage of the Healy programs, ways to manifest, way to amplify your water, your environment, your consciousness, all these amazing things. Cassie is going to offer a really extensive yoga library, meditation. So lots of goodness in there. So if anybody wants more info, then please visit our website. And that is it for parasites for today. Of course, there's so much more to talk about, really, but this is meant to be kind of an overview. And really just bring awareness. I do a lot of work locally to increase awareness about parasites. Most people don't know about parasites and how they affect you, or the symptoms that they cause, and how much better you can feel after a parasite cleanse. So that is the end of the presentation. But if anybody has anything to share, maybe a personal experience, whether you've done a parasite cleanse or if you're really knowledgeable about parasite cleanses. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop in. Okay. So you guys have your hands raised. Do I have to unmute you, Jenny? Or you can.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, so I have a question, and I think back to like when I was growing up, and obviously my parents didn't know anything about parasites, neither did I. It wasn't really a thing um that you talked about, it was like you there I think pinworms was like the only thing that was ever known about or discussed, or if you had something more obvious like a tapeworm, right? Because you would see the little pouch that came out, in your stool. But so my question is more geared towards children, and how often, because I have two young children and they're both in school now. So how often should I be like doing a cleanse on them, and like what is a safe way with children to kind of approach that, and in a way that they're actually going to be to be receptive of that, because it's hard to like cut your kids off of all the foods that they love, so that is something, because I definitely want to do one myself, but like you say, you should have the whole family do one. It's like, so how do I approach this?
Yeah, I mean, with my kids, we talk about it, right? We say, hey, we're going to do this for a couple of weeks. And it's not that you have to eliminate certain foods. Like it's best if you can eliminate processed foods. You can still have fruit, but it's ideal if you do the fruit alone, like not have fruit with the meal, because the parasites, like although fruit has sugar in it, it's usually the combination of the fruit with other foods, and it causes more fermentation, and that's what the parasites will eat. Fruit actually has a lot of vitamins and minerals in it that we need, right? So doing that separate. With kids, what I found, because my kids in particular, they don't like that blend of the three herbs. They're pretty pungent, and so what I have found it works best for them is getting it either in a tincture format, right, and then getting them to take it that way. Or now what we use is I'll do the tincture twice a year, and then I'll do diatomaceous earth. So you can get food grade diatomaceous earth, and then I just hide it in their smoothies. I mean, I don't hide it; they know it's there, but it masks.
I actually do that. They're actually used to that, because I just swirl it in water, and it kind of tastes like mushroomy, earthy taste. But I've also been told that the DE doesn't like kill the head, that it's just like it's a good to kind of flush out. Like I use that on all of our pets. I actually discovered it when I first got chickens. I was like, oh, people are like, yeah, use this. I'm like, this is great. So we started using it regularly. But so with the tinctures, I know Laura is on this call, and she has a woman that she uses that with the tinctures. And with the tinctures, that's like you just like put it in their mouth like a, and it just goes down. You chase it with water type of thing, or you put it in like a smoothie or water or juice or something.
I put mine in with my kids, it's just in water. You want to just not mix it with a whole bunch of stuff, and maybe Laura can share as well. But the diatomaceous earth, just to come back, that's better for like a maintenance protocol, not for the actual detox. And so using like the tincture and then using the diatomaceous like in a fairly consistent way with your kids is more of like a maintenance program. And I don't know, maybe Laura, you want to share about that?
Yeah, with the tinctures too, especially because the alcohol can be really abrasive. You can even put it in warm water and the alcohol will evaporate off to kind of cut back on some of that. The herbs, like you said, though, the herbs are they pungent, so like you're gonna taste them. I mean, you can hide them in juice as well, but yeah, the diatomaceous earth is awesome because it literally dries them out. Like it starts to remove that outer skin where they adhere to your intestinal wall. But the herbs are great too because they get deeper into the tissues, and a lot of people don't, most people think that parasites are only worms. And you might have, sorry, I jumped on late, but like a lot of them are microscopic and they live deep in the tissues, like liver flukes and all that stuff. So personally,
big one too.
yeah. And then the detox symptoms too that you have to be aware of happening. You know, most people think that's like, oh my gosh, what's going wrong? And it's actually going really right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for that, Laura. I did talk about that earlier in the call, about the different, like, although I would refer to this as parasites, it's like pathogens in general. So there's bacteria, there's fungi, there's mold, and quite often they're all like working together. And in my particular field, where I work primarily with cancer, cancer itself, like the cancer cells release this toxic waste byproduct, and the parasites actually love it. And so they're like, quite often when you see cancer, there's parasites combined together. So that's why the parasite cleanse is so so effective in an instance with oncology. So Evangelina was asking about a nut allergy, was wondering about alternatives. DE it is, includes cloves and wormwood, do you think? What are you asking, if you should do the cloves and the wormwood in addition to the diatomaceous earth? Is that just to clarify? And again, like Hulda Clark, what I learned in my training is like using the three of those together is, oh, you're saying with the walnut. Yeah, I get it now. Yeah, there are other alternatives too than just those three different blends. Who is it? Dr. Group. Maybe Laura, do you know Dr. Group at all? Edward Group. He's got one called Paratrex. That one is really, really good as well. But I'd have to check on the ingredients in that one.
I haven't heard of him. I'll look into him though. The first one I did was Dr. Robert Morse.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got he's got two separate ones. One's for like the larger worms and one's for the smaller. But he also, what's nice, and I wanted to tell you this, Jenny, is he has glycerin, antiparasitic glycerin line as well. So it's made with the honey and glycerin. It's not as abrasive as the tinctures. So the kids might be a little more inclined to do that. But yeah, and he's got like Paldiarco and all kinds of stuff in there.
Amazing. And also, like, now having the integration of the frequencies, like with my kids now, we just do the Zapper protocol, once or twice a month. I just have them run it on the weekends. So not always just having to rely on the herbs. I think the herbs are there's like a nice complement to those two, but being able to use the frequencies for the parasites as well. Because they don't like the frequency. It disrupts their cycles. So it's a really effective way to eliminate parasites as well.
Well, if that's what we're talking about, right? Like, is like using the frequencies, which is amazing that we have access to this. I wonder though, and my question is, because I know there's obviously extensive research and scientific proof through trial and error of using like the right frequencies and Hilda Clark's frequencies on parasites and how that works effectively. Do we know if we have any research done on using just the Healy without any tinctures or without any, that if that like actually will eliminate, the parasites or anything? Do we have any? I've never heard of us having anything that would be interesting.
No, I don't think that exists yet. Perhaps it's a good like thesis for somebody. And it's hard to measure it, right? You'd really have to have like stool samples and have like two different groups and have them being doing that way. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to know. Yeah.
That coming out of your children, like, because I've been running the Zapper on both of my kids, and I'm trying to be really consistent about it. And I use the DE like at least once a month. Like I'm a little bit obsessive, which kind of worries me that I use it too much, but I'm like, oh, well, let me just put the bands on them, and like use the Zapper and see, but I've never actually seen anything come out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that with children? Has anything come out?
I mean, my kids, yes, but we live in the tropics. They don't wear any shoes. They swim in the rivers and like the water goes in their mouth despite me telling them not to, like I think we have multiple pets and, we just live in an environment where parasites thrive. And so for my kids now, because we've been doing this for so many years, they actually can like tell. They have a lot of awareness around when they feel like they have parasites. The biggest one is what they call an itchy bum hole. Sorry to be graphic, it's too much information, but that's their like telltale sign. They're like, it's itchy. We need to do a parasite cleanse. And so if they don't have a lot of symptoms, then like a maintenance program is probably sufficient, but and then just keeping their immune system strong. Vitamin C in particular is the parasites don't love it. And so, there's other ways that you can maintain the immune system and create that optimal environment such that the parasites can't thrive in that environment.
I was curious, you were talking about like how many days to do it for. And I know like with the one I'm currently doing, it's 10 days. And then we've always been told like you wait, I think it's 21 days after that 10 days. And then like do the herbs again.
Yeah.
So does that, I know what you were saying was a little different timeline, but does that make sense or?
Yeah, I mean, I think the important part is if you're doing the cleanse, and if you're doing it for a shorter time, you want to repeat it that like 1 month later or a couple of weeks later in your instances, because you want to be capturing the active parasites and then the eggs.
Yeah, that's
so different practitioners have different methods. Like I did most of my training with Hulda Clark and someone in Europe, and their recommendation was like or between 14 and 18 days, and then repeating again, right? Doing a maintenance program for a full month. Now, any of my, like if I'm working with people that are really ill, that they have a chronic disease or they have something like cancer, they're on it for the full 6 weeks, because you want to be capturing that constantly, right? And typically their system is overburdened. They have a lot of toxins. And so that's kind of what I've found that works best for them. But yeah, if you're doing it for 10 days and then you repeat it 21 days later, that's really good.
okay. I'm glad I got that reminder. I'm gonna bring it with me on my trip. Yeah.
Just don't skip the 21 days later, right? Because then otherwise you'll have to start all over again. Is essentially
that's what I'm thinking. So I'm like, okay, I need to get another pack and carry it with me. It has all of those herbs plus some in it. So yeah.
And again, using the frequencies, right? You have the Zapper protocol, or the Power of 3, the programs in there to support that. So you have like this frequency maintenance program, and not having to just rely on the herbs as well, but using them synergistically.
Can I ask you one more question in regards to like probiotics too? Because you're reminding me of like the friendly flora. I've become, I mean, for years, right? You hear you need to take probiotics, but then in recent times, I've heard it's actually one of the worst things you can do to throw off your system, because it's like throws off that balance by adding in just this little handful of, taking like say a probiotics capsule or something, as opposed to like, get it from your food and stuff. But what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think there's a lot of conflicting information out there now about probiotics. For a long time it was take your probiotics, especially if you finished like a round of antibiotics. I think that's when it's most prudent to take it, because if you have taken antibiotics, you've wiped it all out. So you have to repopulate with good bacteria. Now, they're talking about taking different strains, taking a prebiotic with the probiotic. I mean, I think there's a lot of conflicting information. For me, I kind of assess on a person by person basis. I like to get mine from food, right? So doing like a kefir or doing like kimchi or, homemade yogurt. So there's different ways of getting the probiotics, but yeah, I mean, it would depend on the person really.
Yeah, I know, such conflicting information.
And I'm a little leery to like say my point of view on necessarily. But does anybody else have experience with probiotics or a strong opinion about it either way? Laura? Laura, if you wanted to share, your hand is up.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize.
Yeah, you're fine.
I've heard a lot, like you said, I've heard a lot of conflicting things from naturopaths and homeopathics. Some people say it's great. Other people are like, it doesn't really do anything. To be honest, since I started doing, I always thought I had a probiotic issue because my digestion is so sensitive unless I'm strictly fruit, which I eat a very fruit dominant diet. But I found taking the Biomedic from Purium has like, it makes me feel like my digestion's so much more on point. And I don't know if it's just because it pulls glyphosate out, but I honestly no longer feel like probiotics would really give me, sorry, loud baby, would do what everyone says they do, you know, like you see the ads for it and stuff, but I'm like a hardcore Dr. Morse follower, and he says the fruit, you know, the enzymes in the fruit will start to put that healthy stuff back in once you start detoxing and cleansing the parasites, because they ruin everything.
And the candida is a big problem too in terms of throwing off that balance.
Yes, for sure. Oh, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on Mimosa Paducah?
I mean, I've heard of it. I've never used it myself.
I've heard some people talking about using it for the biofilms, and it makes the parasite cleanse way more effective. I haven't done it. I'm pregnant. I won't be able to do it for a while, but I just wanted to know if you had any experience with it.
No, I haven't used that before. I'm really limited in what I can get in the jungle, unfortunately. And I used to travel more and be able to get products in the States, but I haven't been there for a while. So, yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard of it. I've just never used it. And so I try not to form opinions about things I haven't tried yet.
I wanted to share one more thing. So I do use the Biomedic, and I have heard that the fulvic zeolite, which is in there, is one of the best ways to get it. But another thing that I recently discovered, for me personally, and apparently this is a very common issue that's very undiagnosed, in regards to digestion and stuff, is I have low stomach acid. So I've been, I've struggled with like having blood deficiency, Chinese medicine, and everyone's just been, oh, it's your spleen, right? And they were completely skipping over the first step, which is, the stomach, before your spleen can get at your nutrients. And so I recently discovered that, and often it's not in my case. I did do the test to see if I had the H. pylori parasite, but that's very often the cause of people having low stomach acid is from that. So yeah, it's it was like breakthrough that was so simple, but it took like so much searching and multiple people before I found someone that like just zeroed in on that so quickly.
And so how did you deal with that then, the low stomach acid?
So I'm just starting to address it because he didn't want me to do anything till he knew that I didn't have the parasite. Because he didn't want me to get a false negative. But now adding in like hydrochloric acid, like a digestive enzyme with hydrochloric acid. But yeah.
Super simple, right?
Yeah, because
like if they have symptoms like that, like starting on a digestive enzyme, quite often that resolves it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And the Healy has been really good. Like I had a client that had GERD for like a year and tried all the things and all the supplements and nothing worked, but actually working with the Healy, like resolved all of that for her. It's just, again, it's like frequencies, right? And so if there is that pathogenic component to it, that the frequencies are eliminating them. Just pretty mind-blowing.
I know you guys were talking about the Zapper protocol earlier, and that's like my go-to. Whenever my daughter gets sick, that's like the first program I run. Because I feel like it encompasses just everything in there. And like yesterday, my daughter had a fever all day long, and I did the Zapper protocol like 3 times, and immune system chilling and a couple others. And she's not herself today, but she's no fever. I would say 75% improvement. But I feel like the Zapper in the power of 3 is just like such a awesome, all-encompassing for when you don't know what's going on, but they have all the symptoms of a virus or a bacteria, because it's really all parasitic at the heart.
Yeah, the zapper is like, and it's unfortunate because there's not a lot of information out there, and so I think people don't use it, right? And if unless you know about Hulda Clark and her and all of her research, it's like it's probably very much an underutilized program within Healy. And same with the classical energetic and the classical physical, right? Those are rife frequencies. They're amazing. That's geared towards pathogens and parasites and works really well.
I've heard, I follow quite a few people that talk about frequencies, and a lot of them are like really into PEMF, which I'm getting into and I love it. But they even mentioned taking binders using frequencies like that, not just when you're doing the parasite cleanse, because binders are amazing for the die-off symptoms, but even when you're running, certain protocols to take binders with
Like
that, because you're detoxing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. That guy, Dr. Group, he's got a supplement called Oxy Powder, and it's like diatomaceous earth, but it's like bound with oxygen. And so when you take it, it acts like that binder, and it just like grabs onto everything and then like moves it right through your system.
Yes.
Pretty amazing. So
I'm like ready for this baby to come out. I cannot wait to get back to cleansing.
Awesome. Jenny, were you going to say something? No? Okay.
No, I didn't know. When the Power 3 came out, I didn't know until Doc Steve did something about it on What's Up Wednesday. I had no idea that the zapper was what it was, and now when you were just talking about the physical classic and what was the other one that was the Rife?
Classical energetic.
Didn't know. Just learned something new. So thank you. I've just been sticking with zapper. I thought that was the one that was like both Rife, and the Clark and everything. I didn't know that there was a difference. So that is awesome.
Yeah. And the difference between the classical physical and the classical energetic, like the classical physical is really like the actual parasites, right? Like the bugs themselves, and it's clearing it out. But the energetic is, we think about all these things that we have living in our body, they all have their own particular energy, right? And parasites and pathogens in particular have like a negative frequency for us, right? They're a detriment to our system. And so running that classical energetic is really working on that like deeper energetic level in the body to like optimize their energy. So it's not so like heavily impacting our own energetic field. Amazing.
It's amazing. Frequencies are so cool.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for participation and sharing your insights and your experience. I mean, this is how we all learn, right? We all learn and empower because there's so many different things out there, different methods, different protocols, different ideas. And so I love that we had so much interaction with this one in particular. I think it's a really important topic that most people don't know about. So I'm always really keen to share and talk about parasites with people. So, yeah.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll see you in a couple weeks, you guys. And I'll post the replay tomorrow.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, anytime you want to talk about worms, I'm your girl.
Awesome. I'll reach out. Okay, ciao, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Aloha. Thank you.
Andrea,